Peace and blessings, brothers and sisters. It is yours truly, Bakari John Boa. I am the founder of EY Pele Movement. EY Pele Movement is a ministry where we focus on your spiritual, your physical, and your financial well-being. Hopefully, everybody weekend is going well. Ours certainly is. We're definitely blessed to have one of our heroes in the building, one of the former original Black Panthers in the building, author, truly a man of wisdom, a man that has some insight that I believe all of us need to know. So, Baba, before I start talking, may I have your permission to start speaking, please?
Absolutely, my brother.
Okay, I say. All right. So, as we all know, our warriors, our heroes are misunderstood, misrepresented. Okay. And there's an African proverb that says, until the lions have their historians, tales of the hunt shall always glorify the hunter. And this is the reason why we have our elder on today. We want to celebrate him on today. Baba John Jamal Turner is in the building. Again, he was a part of the original Black Panther Party. Him and I, we actually labored together on a program that was dealing with racism. Okay, so that's how him and I connected. Sister Normsa was the one who hosted that event, and it was a good mother that was on, Yeye Hope, and she was the one who connected Baba and I. So I'm just humbled and honored to have connected with him because, and I want to just give you your flowers, Baba. While you are alive, I just want to thank you personally for sacrificing your life. Okay, as I told you in our private discussion, but I want this to be public because I want it to be on record. We love you. Thank you so much for what you've done for us. Thank you for laying down your life so we can have a better life. Thank you, Baba, for being uncomfortable so we can be comfortable. And from my family and I, from our community, I know I can speak for the revolutionaries who are warriors in this movement, and we love and respect you. And it's because of you, your shoulders, that we're standing on the day that we even have the liberties that we have on today. So, Baba, thank you, and thank you, sir.
Heartfelt love to you, brother, for such a beautiful introduction. I
You're
just
welcome.
I just want to thank you for allowing me the opportunity to share with our brothers and sisters stories that were never told,
Yes.
experiences that were never shared, heartbreaks that were never felt,
Mm.
sorrows that were never felt, all of the experiences that we had as a people who made the determination that we were going to raise the stakes much higher. And we chose to become the defenders of our communities, even at the cost of death.
Ashe. Let's begin. You said there was a couple of things that you wanted to address. So let's address them. We want to start with uh, the Black August. You wanted to expound on that and talk about the significance of Black August because it was very important. You had some details that you wanted to highlight in that regard. So please do, Baba.
Absolutely. One of the issues that we have historically is that there are events and occurrences that happen, and the significance of those events and occurrences are never told. Black August is a period in our history where we commemorated what we call the prison movement in the 60s and 70s. During that period of time, the prison movement was spearheaded by political prisoners who were captured off of the streets, put into the prison systems, and began to educate the prisoners politically, socially, developing their political consciousness and bringing them to a higher level of understanding of why they were prisoners in the beginning. The movement became so broad that we developed inside of the prisons political leaderships that organized anti racism and social consciousness within those systems. And we began to funnel those politically educated brothers from prison into the streets. The Black Muslims, the Black Panthers, and what was known then as the Black Guerrilla Family were the organizations that spearheaded those movements. Like any other movement that threatens the power structure, those brothers became targets, and those targets cost a lot of brothers their lives. Black August commemorates these brothers. We have two brothers in particular, and they were blood brothers. Don't know if you ever heard of Jonathan Jackson. Don't know if you ever heard of
No, sir.
George Lester Jackson.
No, sir.
Don't know if you ever heard of the Soledad brothers.
No, sir. I haven't.
Well, let us give a brief synopsis of the history of these
Okay.
particular individuals and how they affected the movement.
Okay, Baba.
Brother George Jackson was, unbeknownst to most people, was the actual head of the Black Panther Party. He was the general field marshal, which means that he had executive power, which means that he dictated the political military machinery and strategy of the entire Black liberation movement. This brother at 17 was sent to prison, spent 12 years primarily in solitary confinement, learned four languages to the extent that he became fluent in Chinese, Arabic, Latin American, and European histories. So much so that he developed economic and political strategies to combat anti imperialism and anti racist behaviors. He was one of the co founders of the Black Guerrilla Family. It was from these brothers that gave direction to the movement from prison. This man, locked in solitary 23 and a half hours a day, 23 and a half hours a day, was able to lead a revolutionary struggle.
Wow.
George Lester Jackson, never forget that name. I was honored to be one of his students. You must Google Blood is My Eye. It
Okay.
is a book that was a international bestseller
Good is
in
my.
1971. I had the honor of co-editing and researching the book information for this beautiful brother. He was assassinated August 25th, 21st, I'm sorry, 1971. The Black Guerrilla Family still exists today in all of the prisons throughout the country. That is his legacy. The Attica prison movement that was known as the Attica Prison Massacre. Those brothers was his soldiers.
Hmm.
Picture that. That's in New York. He's
Wow.
in California. No matter where the prisons were, he had a lot of influence on their political direction. Jonathan Jackson, his younger brother, at 18 years old, August 7th, 1970, decided that he was going to liberate his brother from San Quentin. He was assassinated at the Marin County Courthouse, where he went and decided that the best strategy for him in order to ensure that his brother would live was to take hostages and demand the release of his brother, a 17-year-old warrior,
Hmm.
Black August. These are the heroes that we commemorate.
Ashe.
These are the heroes that we celebrate.
Ashe.
So
That's
I want to
powerful.
share that with you and your audience so that they will have a historical understanding of the scope of the Black Panther Party and the Black Liberation Movement, the original BLM.
Yes, yes. Let's talk about that because I know you said you want to address the misrepresentation of the movement, and you wanted to keep it in perspective in regards to Black Lives Matter.
Right, and before we actually get into the history of the party, I'll just preface it by making that comment because a lot of people want to take credit for BLM. Okay, and from where we sit, we had conversations with certain BLM members or Black Lives Matter members during their inception, and we asked them what was their strategy once you mobilize millions of people in the streets. What are you going to do with all that energy? How are you going to funnel it? What is your program? What is your end game? What is your strategy? We tried to give them insight on how you take and funnel that energy and you funnel it and channel it back into the communities, as we did. You don't march one day and go home and call it a day. You march to mobilize, to organize, to strategize. When we did, we set up community centers throughout the country. And when we marched and organized those that would support our programs, we, on a day to day basis, laid the groundwork for community services, servicing and protecting the needs of the community. Unfortunately, the BLM today was co opted. What we do know, what we do know is that there were hundreds of millions of dollars donated, but there's nothing structurally that you can identify that could say honestly that the movement was well served. Brothers and sisters are still being gunned down in the streets today. Keep that in mind.
So you know what coming to my mind is like the 10-point program, if I'm saying that right.
10-point platform and program.
Yes, sir. That because I know you was talking about the resources and making sure is the community is being taken care of and things of this nature. And from my understanding, the Black Panther Party was the WIC program before the WIC program.
So, absolutely, brother. And your words are well spoken. You talk the WIC program, the free lunch program, the free breakfast program. Of course, they were co-opted. Okay,
Hmm.
they were co-opted, and that was Lyndon Baines Johnson's way of trying to decapitate the movement, trying to take steam out of the movement. But when you relate to the 10-point platform and program, that was the bedrock of the Black Panther Party. Unfortunately, people have misconceptions of who we were. And anytime I get the opportunity, I like to clarify who we were. We were not a bunch of thugs, drug addicts, drug dealers,
Yes.
pimps,
Talk about it, Bob.
prostitutes. We were well educated
Yes.
Black men and women who had
Yes.
degrees, who were college students. Certainly, there were brothers that were what we would call uneducated or lack of a college education. Nonetheless, they were politically savvy.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly, we did recruit brothers and sisters off the streets who may have been in the life or the game, as we call it.
Mm-hmm.
However, once they gave up their life in the game, they joined the Black Panther Party and became politically conscious. So we were more than just those negative labels that were given to us by the press at that time. We were strong, willful, creative, loving, compassionate, and beautiful young brothers and sisters that had a purpose in life and were willing to sacrifice everything to secure that purpose and secure the freedom of our people.
That is absolutely beautiful. That's what I definitely have seen, and I was gonna ask you about that. Where did you guys galvanize that? Because you sent me a beautiful photo of Yeye Angela Davis. I love calling her mama. I love calling her mama. You know, and from my understanding too, Bobby Seale has a collegiate background. Angela Davis has a collegiate background. Doctor Angela Davis, Doctor Huey P. Newton, and now you yourself are pursuing your doctoral degree as well. So I definitely would love for you to expound on that. How was that gathering in college, and what we know that it was the struggle, but let's get detailed about it. Let's really get detailed about it. Like, um, why was it founded, and what was the fuel behind it, if you will, please.
That's a good question. And in order to answer it, we have to put things in historical perspective to understand what that fuel was. Because during that time, uh, things were occurring in this country that was brutal,
Mm-hmm.
that was murderous. Not to say that it hasn't already always been that way, but during the 60s and 70s, we're coming out of a period where the brother, and that broke my heart when I was a child, and that really was an impetus for me to join the party when beautiful Mamie Till allowed the disfigured body of her son to be seen by the world
Mm.
to display just how vicious
Mm-hmm.
white terrorists are in this country.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So during that time, there were many Emmett Tills that were never publicized.
Mm.
During that time, there were many young brothers and sisters being gunned down in the streets that was never publicized. We
Mm.
grew up under that. We
Mm.
grew up understanding when we went into the South, we had to go to colored only facilities. We grew up during that time reading stories about brothers still being hanged from oak trees in the South.
Mm. Mm.
During that time, we were victims and a part of the most atrocious form of racialized, institutionalized deprivation of rights of our people to live a humane and different, decent life. So, as young students, we started to go into the universities with that frame of mind. We started to go into universities demanding that we're not going to sit here and hear you teach history that absolutely has no relevance to our experiential lives as a formerly enslaved people.
Mm-hmm.
We went onto those college campuses and we started to organize what we had and called then Black Student Unions. This was pre Panther Party. Okay, so the Panther Party became the spearhead, but before there was a Panther Party, there were young students, of which I was one of them, and a part of a group of them that were challenging the racism on college campuses throughout the country.
Mm-hmm.
You asked me a question: how did you meet, or how did you get recruited into the party?
Yes, sir.
Being a University of California at Berkeley student, I was blessed to have a front row seat of probably one of the most progressive universities in the country at that time, who we challenged to allow us as African Americans to be more representative part of our struggle. Because at that time, they were only allowing athletes into the universities to make their money.
Mm.
But
Mm.
there was those of us that
Mm.
had
Mm. Mm.
something up here that they
Wow.
could not deny our admission. So you had brothers like Huey, you had brothers like sisters like Angela,
Mm-hmm.
you had sisters like Kathleen Cleaver,
Mm-hmm.
sisters
Yes.
like Asama
Yes.
Shakur. Okay,
Yes.
we were the bedrock of the young, educated brothers and sisters that said, okay, we're going to organize on these college campuses. We're going to organize strikes. We're going to shut them down. And we're going to demand at that time what was called Black Studies programs. So we hadn't morphed into the Africana departments yet. We started off with Black Studies.
Mm-hmm.
From Black Studies, we went to Africana Studies, but before we came to Africana Studies, we went to what was called Ethnic Studies, because
Mm-hmm.
through ethnic studies, you form a coalition with all of the peoples of color on that campus. There was the Asian American Student Union, there was AIM, the American Indian Student Movement, there was the Chicano Liberation Front, there was the Puerto Rican Liberation Front, there was the Black Student Union, and that Black Student Union on my campus morphed into the Black Panther Party. So,
Mm-hmm.
to my question, my brother, it was from that mindset that the young brothers and sisters began to develop the political consciousness to understand that it was institutionalized racism and police brutality, and understanding the intersection between the two, that we began to organize around the needs of the peoples in our communities.
Mm. Wow. That's deep. And so, with that being said, you told me the stories about. I know you mentioned earlier about the water fountain situation, and I know you were saying that you were just thirsty.
I just wanted some water, right? I didn't give a shit whether it was.
You.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say shit, but I didn't. I just wanted some water. Okay, I didn't care whether it's from a colored water fountain or a white water fountain, and I was not going to discriminate which one. When I saw water, I drank. Okay, so that
Hmm.
was the type of lifestyle that we had to live, and how we had to look over our shoulders to determine if, in fact, we were violating social norms that were deleterious to the existence of people of color. Those are the things that today people can't even imagine. But those were our experiential experiences on a day-to-day basis, and that's the bond that I think we developed as young brothers and sisters, that was unbreakable, that was forged under fire. When I think of that bond, I think of when we became party members. What most people don't understand is that we were not Panthers by day. Okay, if you joined the Black Panther Party, if you were working, if you were a student, if you were living at your mama's house, if you had your own apartment, you had to give it all up, and you had to move into what was called a Panther Pads. Okay, Panther Pads were apartments or houses that anchored a community center in a given community. So you have Panther Pads, you have the community center, and that is the base of your operation for a given particular community. One city might have on every side of town two or three community centers, of which Panther Pads would circulate those community centers. In doing so, that's where you live 7 days a week. You had a schedule. The sergeant at arms or the officer of the day each day would give a schedule for those who were living in the Panther pad at the direction of the chief of staff. Each individual had an assignment. Those assignments were as such. We had community centers, we had health clinics that we developed, free health clinics. We had free breakfast programs. We were in the process before we were attacked and eventually destroyed, developing free shoe and clothing factories. We were starting to lay the infrastructure for those areas to be developed. We had liberation schools. We had what was called information cadres. So within those structures, individuals were assigned to each of those structures. That was your assignment on a daily basis. Coupled with that, there were individuals in those community centers. If you were around colleges campuses, as I was with the Berkeley chapter, you were minister of education. It was your responsibility to organize college campuses for whatever political reasons would be deemed necessary by party structure.
Mm-hmm.
Then you had the information cadres who would be responsible for taking the Panther newspapers and go to designated locations and educate people on a daily basis about the content that was in the newspaper. This
Mm-hmm.
was all occurring throughout the country at every location, every day, every day. Now,
Mm.
at the end of the day, everyone had to go. I mean, going back to the Panther pads, dinners being prepared. Then at each location, we had what was called political education or criticism and self criticism sessions, which helps you grow as a human being because we're all fallible and you're going to make mistakes. So each
Mm-hmm.
evening, we laid our souls bare. Well, what did I do, brother, that offended you? What did I do, sister? What mistakes did we make, and how can we correct this? This was
Mm.
every day. It was called taking your political consciousness from a lower to a higher level of understanding.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we were so sharp, brother.
Mm-hmm.
We were on top
Fact.
of our game. And while all of this was happening, still we got other people working in what was called security patrols. Okay, we had people that were manning the windows back and front. We had undercover persons in the community rotating, surveilling the activities, the movement around those community centers. Because
Mm-hmm.
remember now, when the war was declared on us, so every day, every night, 24 hours a day, that was the life of a Panther.
Mm. Wow, that's some great sacrifice right there. And what comes to my mind is cooperative economics. Uh, how did you guys keep the organization running like that? Was it on donations? Like, from my understanding, even some high profile individuals like actors and what have you was making donations and help. I don't know how true that is, but
Well, there were many, many levels, brother, some of which I can't speak on.
understood, understood.
Okay, but that was true. As a matter of fact, there were oftentimes I would be with parties that would either be in Hollywood or in New York. I mean, Jane Fonda, Harry Belafonte, Marlon Brando. These were all people that were our comrades. A lot of people don't know just how closely connected we were to, at that time, Hollywood and also to the brothers and sisters in the New York studio and actors set there. Uh, so we were totally connected there. That was one mechanism. But then the Panther newspaper was at that time sold more papers than the New York Times.
Mm,
Okay, I mean the Panther newspaper was a brilliantly laid out piece of information that was orchestrated by a brilliant artist. I mean, this brother was a brilliance. And if you ever seen the Panther newspaper, you would see the characters in there. Okay, and the papers sold like hotcakes. So that was another form of of fundraising. And then, of course, I mean, there were other means that we were allowed to utilize that were, I would say, underground.
Mm-hmm.
But then we had sisters that were a part of the system at that time, who were mothers and daughters who were receiving state funds. Okay, so they donated everything that they got. So it was a collective effort.
Mm.
But then there were
Mm-hmm.
those of us who were still college students that were on scholarship.
Mm-hmm.
So we took our money and threw it in the pot.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a collective effort, brother. We weren't hurting for funds. Okay, it was obvious, and that's one of the reasons why we became such a target, because it became evident that these so-called ragtag, okay, dirty looking black folk, you got this beautiful infrastructure in all these communities, health clinics, ambulance services. They had to come after us, brother.
Mm.
They had to come at us because what we did, we developed such a strong base in the community. I mean, a strong base in the community that we became a threat. We became a serious threat, a
Mm.
serious threat. And 2.5 years into that program was when they unleashed COINTELPRO.
Mm. Yes, please expound on that. Talk about it because I've heard about it, but I would love to hear that from you, somebody who actually lived through it, in
COINTELPRO,
regards to what occurred during that time, please.
COINTELPRO brings back some hurtful memories, man.
Mm. Mm. Sorry to hear that, Baba.
No, 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 no. It's something as I have grown older. Uh, I lost some beautiful brothers and sisters. Uh,
Mm.
Within what we call the year of the Panther, which was in 1968, 28 of us were assassinated, were
Year
taken out.
1960.
Um, I mean, and I think the most notable brother was Brother Fred Hampton. The COINTELPRO program was a program that was implemented by J. Edgar Hoover. What they did, they unleashed a wave of
I
informants.
hope she says she love you, Baba Jamal. Well, she said Jamal. I see, Baba.
A beautiful sister that I call her I call her Grandy Nanny. Okay, she's from Jamaica. Grandy Nanny was the baddest woman that ever came out of Jamaica.
Yes, yes.
But the COINTEL program, it was so brutal, man, uh, and was so hurtful because up until that point, we were like this. The party was like this. Okay, we were unbreakable. But what they did, they flooded the party with informants. And within a 6 month period of time, we were so infiltrated by our own kind. We were so infiltrated that I remember on many occasions at night, we would be up in the various pads, and when you're on watch, and then the house is still awake. If we're still on alert, and we walk through and hug each other, and give each other, the power salute. And some of us would hug each other and hang on for dear life because we didn't know whether we would see each other again the next morning. Uh, I remember many times when we would put on Marvin Gaye, "What's Going On." Marvin Gaye was our national anthem.
Hmm.
Okay, we would play James Brown, Brother James. We'd boogie and go, "I'm black and I'm proud."
I was just thinking about that.
But, but we would
I
party.
love that song.
We would party. We would party
And
our way late at night under the gun, not knowing if we would ever see the light of day.
hmm.
Uh, uh, some never did. I remember how Fred was taken out. And the brother, and I'm not, and he's not a brother, but I will never give credence to his name. I will never put his name out of my mouth. But he gave the feds the blueprints to the apartment, and they understood where Fred's bed was. So before they kicked in Fred's door, they had already went into the apartment under him and had already killed the brother by shooting up uh, through the ceiling and to the floor, precisely where the bed was located, based on the diagram that this jackanape had given the FBI. So it was those kinds of things that began to break our heart, man. It was those kinds of things that during the COINTELPRO program that we, had funerals that began to take its toll on us emotionally, man. 1968, 69 was brutal and it was gruesome. And the COINTEL program was hell bent on breaking the back of the Black Panther Party. So yes, they succeeded over time. And as I reflect in my later years, I can honestly say to you, my brother, is that I have never in my life, even up to now, felt the love that I did from those brothers and sisters then. And I haven't felt the same love since.
Well, I tell you, thank you so much for sharing that with us. Um, One, do you say riveting information? Love you too, my queen. My queen says she love me. I gotta show that love back. Yes, indeed. So, is there anything else you like to talk about? Like you have the book out, um, Ripples of Time, Memoir of a Former Black Panther. Would you like to expound on that? Would you like to touch on some things in there that you want people to know about? I ordered the book. It's on the way. I wish it would have came today. But it's coming tomorrow though. But is there anything you want to discuss in regards to that? And why do you feel like people should purchase it?
Well, that's a good question. A good question, brother. I'll answer it in two parts.
Okay,
Uh,
brother.
the one reason that I wrote the book was that in the book I discuss, as we have been discussing, who we really were as Black Panthers. But I did it, and it's something that we discussed a little earlier where I had to laugh about it. I didn't want to do it from a scholarly point of view. But in the book, I kind of did a little bit. Okay, but what I did, I connected the history of our enslavement or and our captivity as a people. And I traced that history throughout in the book Ripples of Time. I traced it through ripples of time. At each juncture in time, I showed how at each stage we experienced post traumatic shock from different forms of racial violence on the desecration of the black body. Uh,
hmm
I go into detail on the history of policing, how slave patrollers morphed into policing. I go into detail on the origins of white domestic terrorism, starting with the rise of the slave rebellions, and I take it all the way through the rise of groups like the Ku Klux Klan, White Knights of the Chameleon. I talk about Tulsa or Oklahoma. I talk about East St. Louis. I talk about Osceola, Florida. I talk about all of the locations, including Elaine, Arkansas, where we were all victims of white domestic terrorism, which is nothing new. It has always happened through our experiential experiences in this country, and is even still happening today. So, from that standpoint, I wanted to tie the book to our history, and I wanted to tie the book to how the Black Panther Party morphed into a viable political organization, uh, translating it into the intersection today of the rise of Trumpism and fascism in America.
Mm.
Wanted to make sure that
Mm-hmm.
people understood that we, as a Black Panther Party, predicted this in the 60s and 70s, and I laid out the
Mm.
author. And again, let's go back to Brother George Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
He uh, taught us how to understand fascism, and fascism is not a definition, it is a movement. You can't define it because it's constantly in motion. And what you see today is only an example of how a man who was really, I call him a carnival barker, a TV reality host, who has gaslighted the American people. He has taken over the white extremist base of evangelical racist Christians who were generationally a part of the Southern base and those who supported slavery throughout its existence. So the book deals with corporate fascism, the rise of fascism, like a chameleon, it never changes. It only changes its colors. So
Mm.
I deal with fascism, and I do it in such a way that we will be able to understand that America today are at the crossroads of what I consider, or what Malcolm will call, your chickens are coming home to roost, because it's the white terrorists that are tearing down the walls. From that perspective, the book covers that entire gamut of
Mm-hmm.
ripples of time.
I love it. You actually answer my questions. I don't have to even ask the questions because you. I love it. I
Uh,
love it. That's why I like to let you loose. I knew it was going to be a good dialogue when you and I had spoken, and it was another touching moment that you had in regards to your grandfather, if I'm not mistaken.
uh,
Um,
Daddy Elliot, Daddy Elliot, that was my man. That was my man. He was the one that gave me my political consciousness, and I shared with you how he used to always in his property. We were a little small town called Cadiz, Kentucky, and he would always used to sit me on his lap. He'd have his shotgun by him, had his bottle of corn, his corn pipe, and he schooled me on the origins of white supremacy,
mm,
especially there. He schooled me on the sundown town, how it was a sundown town, how all lanterns had to be blown out by dark. He schooled me on the treacherous nature of white folks. And when I say white folks, I don't use it in terms as a blanket terminology,
hmm
because
The races you're referring to.
exactly, because we're all human beings. When I use it, when I say white folk like that, I'm talking about those races,
Hmm.
individuals.
Understood.
So, but he schooled me on that, and he taught me how to be a discernible and how to be a wise human being when it came to understanding the origins and the nature of racism.
And from my understanding of your story, you know, you started being a revolutionary young, didn't you? Still going to still going to the whites only fountain and drinking water and you know talking trash. You know, you said you really didn't understand what was going on, like it didn't make any sense to you.
Well, no, it did make sense, and I would always question why, why, why. I mean, what is the difference? Water fountain is a water fountain. Okay, water flows. Wherever the water flows, I'm gonna drink it. Okay, that was my position, and I think as I grew older, it on my vision only solidified. What I didn't share with you was I remember my dad was another teacher. He had come home from World War II, proud black man, and he was jumped as soon as he hit the soil by white boys.
Mm, mm,
They told him, "Nigga, take that uniform off." Okay, my dad, he was a gentle and kind man, and it affected him, and he used to share that with me a lot. How it
mm.
affected his life. And then again, as I told you before, I was totally blown away when I saw a young Emmett's body because he was older than I was a baby.
Mm,
And I saw his body. I couldn't understand it. So all these things compounded itself, and it drove me in the direction that it did, and ultimately it drove me into the party.
and
Uh,
you were called the N word too as well growing up. Am I correct?
oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah.
And how did that make you feel?
I didn't like it. Didn't understand it. Didn't know. Really, I wanted to fight everybody, uh, but it caused me to lose self-efficacy. Okay, you began to devalue yourself.
Mm,
You began to question whether you're human.
mm,
Okay, but fortunately, I had two parents that would always tell me, "Boy, you can be anything you want to be. Okay, you don't pay no attention to that mess. Okay, you are a human being." And that was my balancing force.
mm,
Even though my parents were poor, my mom she had, I think, eighth grade education, but they were both hardworking, dedicated uh, family members that made sure that their children had the best, and made sure that their children would make something of their lives and not be overwhelmed by racism and overwhelmed by the loss of any type of self efficacy or self respect. So I've always saluted my parents, my grandparents, and I've always thanked them for giving me the wisdom and the vision that allowed me to do the things that I've done in life.
mm,
It had an effect on me when I joined the party, sacrifices that I made. Uh, but at the time, I was a pre med student. I was going to be the first black neurosurgeon. I already had acceptability at the University of California Medical Center in San Francisco. Uh, I used to laugh a lot because I used to chase my sisters around the house whenever I went home. So I always used to carry these jars with formaldehyde and dead frogs in them. Okay, okay. So I always used to mess with them, But that was my thing, man. I was on my way to medical school, but
Okay.
there was a calling, and the calling was, hey, there's a greater service needed, and that service is at necessary for your people, and it's a choice that you have to make. And I made the choice to do what I did. It cost me 10 years of my life because I spent half of that time in the struggle in solitary confinement.
Hmm.
So I was,
Hmm. So you were incarcerated during the
yeah,
movement.
yeah, yeah, yeah. After Brother George was assassinated in 1971, that was when the movement was destroyed. Okay, that's when all the wind came out of the revolution because he was, and I don't know, and it's unfortunate people don't really know who he was, but he was the rock. He was the rock. Everybody believed in him. Okay, by then everybody else had been neutralized. Everybody else had been neutralized, but after his assassination, uh, about 9 months later, I was captured because we went underground, which is another story of the Black Panther Party. There's so many stories, man, but there was a split. And the COINTELPRO split the party into two groups, the East Coast and the West Coast. Okay, and that's another
Mm.
story that I deal with in the book, but I
Mm-hmm.
do it from an objective standpoint of view and not from an emotional standpoint of view. But what I was going to say, brother, was that once the split went down in the party, once George was assassinated, those of us that decided to take the struggle to another level, we all went underground. Okay, we were no longer political actors. We were actually revolutionaries on the move. If you get my drift.
Mm-hmm.
With that being said, I was captured in I think it was January of 1971, and
Because a party was put on the terrorist list, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm sorry.
You guys were put the Black Panther Party. You guys were put on the terrorist list at one
Right,
time.
right, 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 right. Everybody see at a certain point in time, the COINTEL program targeted certain party members. Okay, all young potential black messiahs were targeted. Okay, anybody that had any inkling of being able to rise from the ashes, become another Huey or another George or another Fred or another Bobby. Okay, they wanted to nip it at the bud. So we became the hunted. We were being hunted. We were actually being hunted. That's why Sister Asada Shakur is still in Cuba.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they did capture her, and she was placed in prison. But
It wasn't the lie similar to, not to cut you off, Bob. The lie was similar about those who was fled, like they were trying to harm the police during that time, or along that lines, like trying to take out the life of a police officer. Is that true? Is it along those lines?
no, say what? Let me explain the difference between the Black Panther Party and became what was called the Black Liberation Army. Okay, once you became the Black Liberation Army, you became underground. You were underground. So all of your movements and all of your actions were dictated by political direction. Now, there were instances where individuals were stopped or shot at by policemen. Uh, so gunfires or those types of things transpire. But it's not like you were hunting people down.
Hmm.
It's like if you have
Just
been
protecting your life.
exactly, exactly. So that again, that's where press becomes circular and identifies the blackness as being the culprit as opposed to being the victim. So if you're being attacked, you're gonna fight back.
Yeah, that's natural. Even
You're
the
gonna
animal does that.
you're gonna fight back.
Yes, even the animal fights for its life. If you watch,
Absolutely.
National Geographics, even if the animal is not big enough,
You
to
know,
even fight back.
you know,
That
all we were trying to do
predator.
was serve our people. That's all we were trying to do. We were trying to do what the system failed to do: provide decent housing, provide adequate health care, provide decent education, provide protection, decent jobs, decent income, all the things that allow one to have a comfortable life on this earth, all of which were being denied at that particular point in time. So we
Mm.
fought back and we paid the price.
Well, I just want to say that I'm grateful that you're alive to be able to tell the story. You and Bobby Seale, as well as Angela Davis. Um, it was another name that you have mentioned. It's another one of the members, the female. Um, was
Kathleen
it-
Cleaver,
yes, yes. She is. She still alive. She's still alive, right?
yeah, she is she's having some health issues, but bless her heart, she's still here. And again, that's the sad part about it, brother. There are very few of us left, and those of us that are left, again, very few of us are still have our cognitive abilities to analyze and to think clearly and to defend our reputation. That's why I'm still thankful that I have been blessed up
Me
until that
too.
point. And that's why, again, I wrote the book because I wanted people to understand that the Panthers were about love, man. We love the hell of our community and we love
Yes,
the hell out of each other. Okay.
yes,
And that was the
yes.
only thing that allowed us to survive is the love
Mm-hmm.
we had. Okay. So,
Yes.
Sister Kathleen is still here.
All
Uh,
praises. Give thanks.
yeah. Unfortunately, Alfani, she passed away a couple of years ago. She was another beautiful sister.
You said Fanny?
Alfani, Tupac's mom.
Oh, yes, yes. Okay.
Yeah, that sister was cold. She was cold, man. She had a mouth on her, but she was beautiful, man. She was beautiful. She was beautiful.
And his if I'm not mistaken, his father too just recently passed away.
Right,
Tupac's father.
right. That was the stepfather, but nonetheless,
Yeah,
yeah,
well, he stepped
right,
in as his father.
right, exactly. I hear you. Excuse me for making that qualifier. That was his father, because he did teach the brother. But one thing about Alfani's life, man, and I saw the special on it not too long ago, and it didn't dawn on me until I saw that, and I said, "Damn!" I said that we all went through that. That post traumatic shock, because at a certain time, man, I was hooked on cocaine. You know,
Wow.
I mean, but it was right after we came out of that traumatic experience
Hmm.
in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
See, because
Trying to deal with it.
right, exactly, I didn't know how to deal with it because
Coping mechanism.
when I came out, when I got released from prison, do you know that I had never been in a nightclub? I had never been to a party,
Oh, I can understand why.
right? Because we didn't have time.
Shoot.
We didn't have time. We didn't know what a nightclub was. We didn't know what discos were. But once we hit the streets, it was like, damn. Well, now what are we gonna do? I mean, what am I doing with my life? I mean, all these questions start circling around in your head.
Yes,
What am I
yes,
gonna do?
yes.
I'm paranoid. And I'm looking over my shoulder. I don't know who's who. I mean, it was
Hmm.
lonely, brother.
Hmm.
Lonely.
Wow, man.
The only thing that kept me going was my family, because all my comrades had been dispersed. We didn't even know where each other were. So it was a lonely world, man.
Hmm.
A lonely world.
Baba, if you don't mind me asking, how old are you now?
I just had my 80th birthday.
Okay, happy belated birthday. What day? When is your birthday?
July the 5th, brother.
All right, all right, all right. Happy belated
July the
birthday
5th.
on that one.
When I tell people that they want to call me a lie, they say, you're not A."
Yeah.
Yes, I am.
Yes, yes. You do look well for your age, Baba. And so with that being said, we're going to close. We got our questions out of the way. We definitely want to thank you for your time, you coming on, and it is something I do want to ask you. Like, do you have? My wife said, "Wow, he looks good."
Tell us, Santi Sana.
Oh, okay, baby. He said Asante Sana. That means thank you very much in Swahili, sweetheart. So, is there any last words, that you, well, I don't like to say last words because we love you. We want you to stick around. Is there any words that you would like to express before we close out? I like that better.
For those that were listeners, I hope that I was able to impart to you some wisdom, uh, some knowledge that will give clarity on who we were as a very important part of our history. And hopefully, you will take that knowledge and continue to research and put it into historical perspective and understand why we say Aluta Continua. Aluta Continua is a slogan that Frelimo used, our brothers during the Mozambique and Angola liberation movements in Africa. It says and means the struggle will always continue.
Hmm. You know what I do? Another thing came to my mind, Baba. I apologize, but I noticed some people they say power to the people, all power to the people, black power. Which phrase did you guys use? Was it one? Was it all of the above? Like what was the original uh
There were
you
two.
know liberation phrase that y'all use?
Power to the people was our general slogan. All power to the people was our overarching slogan. So those two were interchangeable. And then there was a third that very few people know about, and that was used toward the end of the struggle when we had pretty much been sold down the river. We would always say to those closest, power to those who deserve it.
I'm writing this down. So it's all power to the people and then power to the people.
And then toward the end of the struggle, it was power to those who deserve it.
I wrote that down. Thank you so much again, Baba, for taking out the time. Family, I'm gonna put Baba information up there. Again, family, we have Baba, Joan, Jamal Turner in the building. Okay, make sure you go check out his website. I put the information there. Is ripplesoftime.info. You can see it there. Also, you can follow him on Facebook, Jamal Turner. He has, because there's a couple out there, so the imagery will actually have like a female standing there looking like she's dancing. Okay, of course that's not him. And then you go to Instagram and it's ripples of times. Okay, times with an S, ripples of times. Now you'll know is his because it actually have his book there. Okay, the memoir of, excuse me, the ripples of time memoir of former Black Panther. I want to get it right. Okay, so it actually has his book imagery. That's the actual image there, okay, on his Instagram page. Okay, so make sure you go check him out, family. I promise you, I purchased my copy. Okay, I promise you this, it won't break your pockets. It won't break your pockets. So I'm asking of you, in the name of love, seriously, very serious about what I'm saying. Support him, please. Please support him. You know, he's put in the work. I believe his literature is worth purchasing. Okay, you're talking about you having also a possession of historical facts, okay, which we don't hear a lot these days. People lie so much these days. You understand? Oh man, people lie so much these days. And here we have, somebody who actually lived through it, who's alive to tell the story. Okay, to me, he's um, history. And as our African proverb is, when one of our elders transition, it's like a library has went with them. Listen, the library is still here. Again, the library is still here. He's right there. Please bring him on the platform. For those of you who have a platform out there, bring him on the platform. Let him continue to push this literature. We need to celebrate our heroes. I have to say this. I have to say this. We stand up on Memorial Day and we celebrate people, okay, who didn't lay down their life for us at all. Okay. I'm not saying that he's a memory, but what I'm saying to you is remember him. In other words, keep him in your thoughts. Remember, he's the one who laid down his life for us to be where we are today. This is a living hero. Let's champion him. Let's celebrate him. Let's put some money in his pocket. Let's support him. I'm not begging because love should compel you to do this. Okay? Let's love on him while he's here. Let's show him some love while he's here. Let's appreciate him. And he didn't tell me to do this. I'm doing this because I love and I appreciate him that much, as well as all of our elders that's alive that fought for us to date. Let's support him. Thank you all for tuning in so much. We greatly appreciate it. My wife, Amani John Boy, and I. Remember, we have these programs every Sunday and Thursday at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. Okay, you can find us on Instagram. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Facebook. Okay, I'm gonna put that information out there for you. Okay, it's EY Pele Movement. If you just key it in, EY Pele Movement, okay, you'll be able to follow us there. All right, so check us out. There it go right there in your face. EY Pele Movement. You spell it, you type it in, and there go to ministry. Okay. You can find us on all three of those platforms. Again, Baba Jamal, we love you. We appreciate you. Thank you again for such a great sacrifice. And I'm humbled and honored that you accepted my invitation. And I thank you again for your time. And we definitely will continue to talk. And hopefully this won't be your last time. Oh yeah, you working on another book anyway too as well, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, so we would love to have you on so you can advertise that. And I'm definitely gonna buy it. So as soon as please let me know because I am going to buy it. I give you my word. You let me know, and here come the money. I'm looking forward to reading it.
Thank you, my brother.
You're welcome. All right, we bid you all good evening. We'll talk to you all soon.